Welcome to a fourth video tonight, a quadruple upload. So that's a first. I'm hoping by this video it won't look like I have a coke problem continually touching my nose because I took like a couple minutes to take an anti-allergy medication and blow my nose a couple times, so hopefully my allergies are on the defensive at this point and I can do a proper video. And this is a fun video because I'm saying the website called RationalWiki is run by both lunatics and useful idiots. So there's this funny badge of honor in basically any meta topic, which is to get your own RationalWiki page. And maybe one of these days I'll get my own RationalWiki page, because it's so over the top that it skirts the line between a parody of like the closed-minded, cynical debunker stereotype and reality, to the point where if you first encounter this website, it's easy to believe that maybe it's a parody, but the reality is that it's not a parody. These people making this site really think this way, and it's pretty weird stuff. So, let's take a look at RationalWiki. Basically, I was looking up some info about Geraldine Cummins, the medium from the 1900s recently. She kind of like channeled a book called, was it The Road to Immortality, which was by allegedly F.W.H. Myers, and quite a few more books, including The Resurrection of Jesus, let's see, Mind in Life After Death, Mind in Life and Death, The Childhood of Jesus, Beyond Human Personality. Some very interesting books. I've only really read The Road to Immortality, and I disagreed with elements of the book by the alleged F.W.H. Myers, who was communicating. In the sense that there was a very simplistic view of like the astral plane, in my opinion, but it was a very well written book, and I would imagine a lot of these other books that look very obscure. But I'll bet they're really awesome books. I'd be very curious to learn, what if she really was channeling Jesus, and you want to learn about like what was Jesus's childhood like. That's interesting stuff. Or who else? I Appeal Unto Caesar. Is that possibly about Julius Caesar? So some interesting stuff here. But anyway, I was looking her up. The RationalWiki article pops up, and I was reminded how insane the website is. So basically, the site will, from a position of intellectual superiority, attack actual intellectual, intelligent people and academics and authors. Essentially ad hominem attacks and just really weird, really mean-spirited attacks against almost anybody who even dares to talk about like a heretical subject. So it's essentially an attempt to bully people into submission, and I would say a failed attempt to create like a climate of fear, so nobody will mention anything that goes against the materialist new atheist point of view. And essentially, I mean, it's a way of copying the tactics that all the worst people in history use to silence other people and to spread like basically a kind of hate movement. So you take people who have very smart, articulate, well-rounded things to say, and then attempt to reduce them down into something that is completely irrelevant and dare say subhuman. So we can see up on the screen like putting the psycho in parapsychology, and they just starts going after people who really don't deserve it. So let's again just look at the article about Geraldine Cummins. Almost anybody who's ever been a psychic, ever had a book, ever explored supernatural topics, ever talked about consciousness beyond the brain, ever talked about non-materialist concepts, ever dabbled in like spiritual topics, ever talked about spiritual philosophy. All of them have a hit job on RationalWiki. But the thing is, it's always so obvious and mean-spirited and nasty that it seems like a parody. And I do have a solution to this I will mention. Unfortunately, the amount of people watching this channel is very small, so I don't know if my solution will make much difference, but I will present that. Which reminds me, if you've gotten this far, if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button to help keep this thing going. It's the big red button down there at the bottom. So Geraldine Cummins, as they reference her, researchers who studied Cummins discovered her mediumship was fraudulent, period. No citation. It's just saying that there is no specific quote there. This is obviously the opinion of the author. Next sentence. Cummins had long-standing connections with friends and families of the deceased that she claimed to have contacted. One reference, a book called Swan on a Black Sea. How much could Miss Cummins have known? So, no, it's an article from the Journal Society for Psychical Research, which is funny because the SPR is an objective, occasionally pro-paranormal resource, so it's funny when RationalWiki like cherry picks the occasional critical article. And I haven't read that article, but it is funny that how this could apply when obviously she has books about like Paul, Caesar, and Jesus. So I don't think she knew those people. She also worked as a cataloger of the National Library of Ireland and would take information from history and religious books. So what you're saying by this argument is that because somebody was educated and worked in a library, that their mediumship abilities are false. Like seriously? Are we going to use this argument for anybody today? It's like, well, this person can't really have mediumship abilities because they have access to Wikipedia. What the hell? Okay, this is another great logical fallacy. The only supporters of Cummins are spiritualist cranks. This is where it's these types of statements that makes sentences that makes RationalWiki just like borderline comedy, and like it just discredits itself to anybody who has an IQ higher than a turtle. The only supporters of Cummins are spiritualist cranks ad hom, such as Michael Prescott and Michael Tim, who ignore any evidence of her fraud. First of all, there is no evidence of her fraud. The prior paragraph was like some mild accusations based on an old SPR article. There is no evidence of her fraud. Michael Prescott's extremely fair, always looks at both sides of the argument, as does Michael Tim. And the idea that either of those people are cranks is just hilarious. Michael Prescott is a famous suspense crime novelist, and he's written thoughtful articles about possibility of the afterlife for many years. I mean, he's not. I wouldn't call him like a true believer in an afterlife or anything like that. He just kind of talks about the subjects and can highlight particular areas, but he always remains like 1 foot in the skeptical side, 1 foot in kind of the less skeptical side. Michael Tim is more like a real believer, but the dude is like a highly accomplished person. He was an athlete in the 60s, I believe. I mean, the dude's like in his 80s now, and he has like one of the most well-respected blogs in the supernatural world. And so whoever wrote this piece of work on RationalWiki calls both of these people cranks, just like an ad hominem attack. Again, it's basically parody, like it's art imitating life. RationalWiki has a useful bibliography for people, so you can actually research like the person that they're smearing. And so again, they have like every subject you can think of, and all of them are basically hit jobs on people. Now, I'm a believer in free speech. I'm not a believer in censorship, so I believe that RationalWiki, feel free, go ahead, expose yourselves out to the masses, and let's see if people on this side, of the aisle who believe in this dogmatic materialism and are mean and hateful, and if maybe reading an article like this gives them a smidgen of self-awareness, and they begin to see the light, that they're being, immature, and they're in way over their head, and also the research is just bad. So Geraldine Cummins, I believe she was involved in the cross correspondences, which is one of the most evidential areas of information in the history of supernatural occurrences. So if that were the case, then don't you think that an article like this would have mentioned that? But the sad thing is, RationalWiki is only a little bit worse than Wikipedia. So Wikipedia does almost the same exact stuff, just uses a little bit nicer language. And it's run by the same people. The guerrilla skeptics and the people who made this RationalWiki site are the sanctioned editors of Wikipedia. And so Wikipedia is no better than RationalWiki. RationalWiki is just a lot more funny. So my solution for RationalWiki is, since it is a wiki and you can go in there, obviously they wouldn't allow people to put in the rational evidence because it's run by bigots and a hate mob. What you can do is you can make it even more like how should I say it? Make it even more over the top. So they call Michael Prescott, Michael Tim spiritualist cranks, which is ridiculous, but maybe that's not far enough. Maybe you should say the only supporters of Cummins are spiritualist cranks like Michael Prescott and Michael Tim, who are also confirmed Nazis. I don't know. Just start, just make it over the top. Make it, because they're less likely to edit out a continued slander and ad hominems, and just see how ridiculous you can make it. So that's one solution, is to just make it so ridiculous that eventually people who come to this site will immediately determine that this is some kind of immature garbage. Let's see, what else do I have to say about this? Not much. They have a Facebook page. I think that's funny. 8,217 people like this. Huh. Trashing Bitcoin. Interesting. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, pretty pretty run-of-the-mill blog here. Like, they're not. I think personally, because multiple people run RationalWiki, there's so many different articles and people who can just edit articles, that they probably distance themselves a little bit from these really nasty smear articles because they know just how ridiculous it is. So, like, when I'm scrolling through their Facebook page here, what I don't see a lot of are many side-related articles. So they talk a lot about fake news, anti-vaxxers, it's we call a jade vaginal egg. Let's see. This is pretty funny, actually. So a bunch of Grim Reapers. We need to increase our efficiency. How about a new deadly super virus? It would cost us millions in research. But if we created a hoax stating that vaccines are dangerous, we could work with the viruses and bacteria that are already on the market at zero cost. It's the employee of the month. Oh, man. Definitely pretty left-leaning site. UFO lobby thrilled by House Ken. Okay, so this is where they're picking on aliens. Yeah, okay, so there's one article I've seen that wasn't focused on like alternative health where they picked on somebody for believing in aliens, which is, it's so ridiculous at this point too. To mock people for believing in aliens. I mean, so much evidence out there. And again, lots of kind of left-leaning stuff. Anti-Trump, anti-Trump, anti-Trump. Oh, anti-Jordan Peterson. Okay, so they're going into the culture war and all that kind of stuff. Pretty, like, clear where they're at. That's going to polarize, like, this whole audience. Basically by half. There's one thing we know, the culture war type thing going on. The intellectual dark web versus the social justice warriors. The Trumpers versus the progressives. Is don't mess with it, because you will immediately polarize half your audience. So they're making a huge mistake there. But yeah, I mean, besides that one article about the UFO lady, like, what do you see? It's a smug page. They think they're better than everybody else. But the rational thing to do is not to publicly pick too much on the people involved in like psychic research and things like that, because there's so much damn evidence. And I would love to have a debate with an editor of this site on like Skype or something like that, because they have this intellectual superiority, and it's not easy being these smug, closed-minded skeptics, because by doing so they have to basically position themselves against a smorgasbord of evidence. So it's like putting yourself on the front lines of a castle that's under siege, walking out in front of the castle and having to dodge, thousands of arrows being lobbed your way. Why? Because there's so much evidence now. Just as an example, let's go back to where I like to go now to illustrate that point, which is afterlifetopics.com. /destroying debunkers. And let's see if that comes up. If it doesn't come up, it means there's something wrong with my website. Okay, good. So again, here we have like dozens and dozens and dozens of articles in major journals just destroying these ideas that there's no evidence for these topics. So yeah, so again, I mean, same old stuff. I don't want to beat this dead horse too much more. So yep, that's RationalWiki. If you like this video, oh look, here's some books you can check out. We have The Afterlife and Beyond up here, Understanding Life After Death. Lots of cool articles. This is all on afterlifetopics.com. The classes, things like that. So be sure to check all that out if you like what I have to say. And I'll see you on the next video.